Hello and welcome to a new build series. After a long wait, I finally got my hands on a new Cotic BFe Max frame, and in this series I'm going to be documenting the build of the bike in a time when there is a global shortage of bike parts. A really smart move. So what is the BFe Max, I hear you say? Well, the BFe Max is a crazy fast, super tough 29er hardtail designed to run suspension forks up to 160mm of travel. It has what Cotic call long shot geometry, designed to keep the bike stable through rough stuff planted in corners and pinpoint accurate in the steep tech. Designed to be paired with a very short stem, it has an optimized head angle to maintain incredible poise and composure. So, after that brief introduction, let's unbox the bike and have a detailed look at the frame. So, in the box we have the frame itself. It's double wrapped, so it's wrapped in a bag and bubble wrapped to keep it nice and safe, which is good. And it looks like we also have a small bag of accessories. One thing I think is worth mentioning is the box has like double layers of cardboard in it to keep it extra well protected, which is nice to see and helps to ensure you get the product you actually ordered rather than something the parcel company has dented up. So the frame is protected in the box in its quite heavyweight polythene type bag. It then has a second layer of this bubble wrap type bag to doubly protect the frame. And the bottom bracket and head tube have like a thick polythene sheeting zip tied into place also, which ensures those are the parts that are likely rubbing onside the surface within the bags within the box, so that ensures they don't get damaged, which is nice to see. Another nice thing to note is the rear axle comes protected with that sort of cardboard tube and the rear axle installed, which means it can't get bent or damaged in transport. So the BFe Max is available in a couple of colours: a sunny yellow, gunmetal and copper, bright blue and dark grey, and obviously I've gone for the bright blue here. Let's have a detailed look around the frame, starting at the head tube. You can see we have gussets both on the top tube and the down tube. The welds look pretty neat through the thick paint from what I can tell. There's a new Cotic head badge, it's a bit different than the previous one. Top tube on this bike is like oval form, so it's flattened, so it's wider in top view than it is side to give better compliance and stiffness. The down tube has 3 bottle mounts, which is pretty amazing. So we have 2 on the top, normal, and we have an extra set on the bottom. We have an ISC Go5 mount on a threaded bottom bracket and some tiny little gussets next to it. As you can see, we've got some very nice forming on the chainstays there. So there's no bridges or anything down there. There is a reinforced dropper cable hole on the seat tube. The seat tube top tube junction is dropped with this little reinforcing tube to lower standover height. And the frame comes for free with this neat looking seat tube clamp. Inside the seat tube it looks well prepared with no burrs to scratch or gouge your seat tube you choose to insert. And on the top tube, as you can see, we have a 4th set of bottle mounts, although I think most people will use this as an accessory mount. One area I think Cotic has been quite clever is their bottle mounts also double up as their cable mounts. So in the accessories, as you'll see later, the clamping solution for the cables is very, very smart, and you can get dual uses out of a single hole. The head tube has been reamed and faced both sides after painting, which is really nice to see, which means there should be no problems pressing the headset into the frame with excess paint or stuff getting in the way to stop it sitting perpendicular and fine within the tolerance holes. I did notice this small blemish or sticky sort of mark on the gusset here. It's not something I worry about, but it's the only blemish of note in the entire frame, which is pretty superb. Moving on to the rear of the bike, you can see the superb sculpting on these chainstays to ensure tyre clearance and chainring clearance. There's no bridge on these chainstays, which is nice to note, and it's all done within the forming of the tubes. Now this form is quite an extreme shape, I think. I don't think it's some chap with a hammer bashing it. I should imagine it's hydroformed or something like that in a precise controlled process, rather than, being bashed into the shape. It's too detailed and too sharp and too clean and nice to be a manual process where it's just deformed from one side. Moving on to the rear end and rear axle, we have a Syntace X12 type rear axle, which is nice as it's not a proprietary part to Cotic, meaning there should be lots of spares out there to find should you break a derailleur hanger or the rear axle or the threaded insert. Moving on to the rear caliper mount, you can see we have an older IS type mount here, which is probably the most weight effective for a steel frame. We have this little reinforcing tube going between the caliper mount and the frame to make sure it's all rigid and won't fatigue, and it's been nicely faced on the inside to ensure it's nice and square to the disc. The mounting strategy for the gear and brake cable at the rear of the bike is pretty simple. We have these nice little braze-ons which use zip ties, and the seat stays terminates at the seat tube in this nice little wishbone structure, which is super nice and neat looking. So the frame is made from a variety of chromoly steels. The down tube is made from Reynolds 853, which is a very high-end tube. You can find on many very expensive bikes, but on this it's only the down tube. The rest is made from Cotic's FM chromoly steel, which is their own bespoke type of blend of steel. Rhyme or reason behind this, I'm not sure, but there we go, that's what it is. An old cycling myth states you can tell the quality of a steel frame by the sound the tubes make when you flick them, how they ring. So here's some ringing tubes for you if you believe that sort of thing. So my initial impressions of this frame is very good. The finish is almost flawless, and it's nice to see the bottom bracket and head tube are well prepared. The thing I think is worth to note is all the decals have been lacquered over so they won't peel, so they'll be on there nicely for a long time. So placing the raw frame onto my scales and balancing it, we come in at a weight of about 2.8 kilos. I should imagine once we put all the cable mounts, this should be about 2.9 kilos. Moving on to the accessories that came with the frame. You can see it comes with this like neoprene type chain guard. This is a kind of an old-fashioned way of doing it, but light and effective. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it at this stage or not. Here are some of the cable mounts and the rear derailleur hanger. And we have a nice Cotic sticker, because everybody loves stickers or knows someone that does. So this is the Syntace rear mech hanger, and you can see the pinch bolt mechanism that goes through it. So this is a special bolt for the rear derailleur hanger, and it also clamps the threaded section of the axle. We've got 6 button head type bolts here. I'm not quite sure what they're used for just yet. And this is the rubber mount for the cable for the dropper post that goes into the seat tube. In these two bags we have all the mounting clamps for the brake hose, the gear cable and the dropper cable. Let's start with the single cable mount clamps. These will be for the down tube for the dropper cable. So they're split type arrangements, so one has a countersunk hole and one has a plain hole. And yeah, so you can mix them, well not mix and match them, but you have an option to have a really flush fitting if you choose the countersunk bolt to go through it. And that explains why there's 6 button heads. So if you wanted to use these in combination with a drinks bottle holder, you'd use the button head screws, or if you wanted a clean look with no bottle cages, you would use these countersunk screws. That's why they included those button head screws. Moving on to the dual cable holders for the top tube. It's a very similar arrangement, apart from we could obviously clamp 2 cables at one time. So yeah, these go on the top tube for the brake cable and the gear cable. And again, we've got these nice countersunk screws. I think this hardware is stainless steel, so it shouldn't rust up and look too nasty. And yeah, it's a neat way of doing it, and not full of cable ties or anything like that, and it's easily accessible. This is one of the nice things about this bike, is nearly all the cable routing is external. So I've wrapped a microfiber around the seat tube of this bike, and I'm going to clamp it in my bike stand, ready for part 2 of this series. I'm going to start building it up. I've not put any of the cable features into the frame or the mech hanger for now. As for part 2, you'll see why. But yeah, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Join me in part 2, which will be in a week or two's time, and I'll see you then. Cheers.